Well, the Ottawa RedBlacks didn't have long to wait to know who they prepare for. That kitty cat battle, or the feline bull, definitely was very, very one-sided here. So anyway, here's my preview of the Eastern Final of the 2018 CFL playoffs as the road to the 106th Grey Cup continues. Now we're looking at the eastern side of the bracket for the Eastern Final, the one last stop before the Grey Cup. So let's, like I did for the semi-final videos, I'll be giving a little history, playoff history, also breaking down the season series, and then break down every facet of the game. And since every game is played outdoors, I'll give a weather forecast and ultimately give my pick-em style, the team who I think will win, and what's my confidence level that team is going to win. So let's get started and let's talk about the Eastern Final here. So the Eastern Final will be at Sunday 11 a.m. kickoff Mountain Time at TD Place Stadium in Ottawa. And ultimately, the Hamilton Tiger Cats came through against the BC Lions. So the Hamilton Tiger Cats are off to Ottawa to play the Ottawa RedBlacks in the Eastern Final with a chance to get to the Grey Cup with a win here. So how did the Eastern Final go? The Eastern Semi-Final go? Definitely was not much of a game here. The Hamilton Tiger Cats destroyed the BC Lions 48-8. The Tiger Cats definitely feasted on the Lions big time, as Jeremiah Masoli had 259 yards passing. And then one receiver definitely stepped up for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Braylon Addison. He had 124 yards receiving. And then of those 48 points that Hamilton scored, 28 of it came on points off of turnovers by the Lions. Need I say more? Hamilton was definitely dominant over the BC Lions in Hamilton. And I actually didn't quite see that coming. I mean, you could have saw that coming in the season series after the BC Lions were dancing on the Hamilton Tiger Cats logo. But, you know, this definitely was a little disappointing for an Eastern semi-final, considering Hamilton was up and down all season and BC was on a second half surge. And it's a shame that coach legend Wally Bono, this was his last game as head coach, and I still tend to make a tribute video to him in the off season with, you know, I already have a couple videos of my Calgary sports legends here, but anyway, that was the Eastern semi-final to see who advances and take on the Ottawa RedBlacks here. So let's look at the records here for both teams here. The Ottawa RedBlacks were 11-7 and finished first in the East, which gave them the bye right into the Eastern Final. And while the Hamilton Tiger Cats were second in the East with an 8-10 record. So they're still a sub-500 team, but they definitely turned it on in the Eastern semi-final. The Ottawa RedBlacks, they're 6-3 at home. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats are 4-5 on the road, so they were just as good at home or on the road, just under 500. And then versus the Eastern Division, the Ottawa RedBlacks are 6-2 versus the East, while the Hamilton Tiger Cats are 4-6 versus the East. So definitely, if you look at the records here, it definitely favors Ottawa. Well, when you're first in the division, you're most likely going to get, you know, all the records in your advantage. And as I mentioned, the winner of this game is off to the 106th Grey Cup in Edmonton the following week on Sunday, November 25th. That'll be at 4 p.m. kickoff, Mountain Time, at the Brickfield at Commonwealth Stadium. So let's look at the season series here. Actually, these two teams played each other 3 times during the regular season here. So if you go all the way back to week 7 here for the first matchup, the Ottawa RedBlacks were in Hamilton at Tim Hortons Field, and the Ottawa RedBlacks won the first game 21-15. Highlights I have from that game is that Jeremiah Masoli actually outpassed Trevor Harris in this game, but the Ottawa defense recorded 5 sacks on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And then it wasn't until week 19 that these two teams played each other again, which definitely came down to the decision on who was going to host the Eastern Final and the Eastern Semi-Final. So week 19, this was definitely a close one, but the Hamilton Tiger Cats were in TD Place Stadium in Ottawa, but the Ottawa RedBlacks prevailed with a 35-31 victory. It was definitely an offensive shootout by both quarterbacks. Jeremiah Mazzoli threw for 342 yards, which actually worked out to be one more than Trevor Harris at 341 yards. Like the first game, William Powell, the running back for the Ottawa RedBlacks, outrun Alex Green's Hamilton's running back. R.J. Harris, another Harris, played a role in this game. He led the gateway in receiving. And then, with this being 2 out of 3, the Ottawa RedBlacks took the season series, which gave them the tiebreak if it came down to that. And then week 20, they played each other again, this time back in Hamilton. And the Ottawa RedBlacks swept the season series with a 30-13 victory. This was definitely a cold, rainy game in Hamilton that day. Didn't stop Trevor Harris's air attack. Deontay Spencer, who's a very versatile player because he's also their returner, led the way in receiving. Jeremiah Mazzoli had an average game. He still threw for over 200 yards, but he was dealing with a depleted receiving core late in the season. And then Alex Green, had 76 yards rushing in the game. And this game actually clinched the first place for the Ottawa RedBlacks to host the Eastern Final, which is what we're talking about now. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats knew they were going to be in the playoffs for a while in the weaker East Division, but they knew their fate was sealed coming into the last week of the season that they were hosting the Eastern semifinal, and they had to wait till actually later that day that they were going to take on the BC Lions, so they had some clarity in coming into the last week with their playoff fate. So let's talk about a little bit of the playoff history here of these two teams. Actually, most recently, these two teams met in the 2015 Eastern Final. And the Ottawa RedBlacks, it was in Ottawa, won this game 35-28. That game remembers the Greg Ellingson miracle catch. He had a 80-plus yard touchdown in the last minute of the game to take the lead, and they made their first appearance to the Grey Cup, the Ottawa RedBlacks. The previous games, if you go back to the 1993 Eastern semifinal, the Hamilton Tiger Cats hosted the Ottawa Rough Riders, so this was a previous version of the Ottawa team. Hamilton won that game 21-10, and then the 1992 Eastern semifinal, once again it was in Hamilton. Actually, the Hamilton Tiger Cats won that game 29-28. So that's some playoff history here. So now let's break down the facets of the game here. So let's start with quarterback here, and like last week, I like the article that the CFL.ca breaks down, but I add in a few points and come up with my own personal opinion on who I think has the edge or not in each part of the game here. But this is where I come to my conclusions. But when it comes to quarterback here, you got Trevor Harris and Jeremiah Mazzoli. I mean, Mazzoli was second in the league in passing, while Trevor Harris, I think he was third or fourth. But I say both of these guys are capable of putting up big yardages, so I don't give anyone the edge here. I think this is an evenly matchup between the two quarterbacks. I mean, they both had their flashes in the pan and had big numbers in the season series. So when it comes to running back here, you got William Powell for the Ottawa RedBlacks and Alex Green for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Well, William Powell was just behind Andrew Harris for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the rushing title, so I'm obviously going to give the edge to Ottawa there when it comes to the running game. Receivers here, well, this is definitely another mismatch here, injuries or not. Ottawa has guys like Brad Sinopoli, Greg Ellingson, and Deontay Spencer. All three of those guys, ever since Ottawa has been in the league, they constantly have had 1,000-yard receivers. Hamilton encounters with guys like Luke Taster, Mike Jones, and, Braylon Addison definitely stepped up in the Eastern semifinal. Maybe give Ottawa, perk up Ottawa's D here. But with proven guys like Sinopoli, Ellingson, and Spencer, Ottawa has the edge here in the receiving. So when it comes to the offensive line here, I mean, once again, Hamilton has guys like Brian Ravenberg and Mike Filer, two solid veterans on the offensive line to protect Jeremiah Mazzoli and open up the running game. Ottawa also has guys like Riker Matthews and Calvin Palmer, but when it comes to the offensive line here, I actually give the edge to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So now, if you look at the defensive side of the ball here, so the defensive line, Hamilton has Ted Laurent as her leader, and then Ottawa has pieces like E.C. Leonard and Jonathan Newsom here, but I see this being an evenly matchup here, so I don't give anyone the edge here on the defensive line here. Now when it comes to the linebackers here, I'm going to say Hamilton definitely has guys like Simone Lawrence. He definitely backs up his talk. He definitely, players actually voted him as one of the best trash talkers in the league, but he's actually quite funny and entertaining. Excuse me. But he also got guys like Adrian Tracy, Don Nwamba, Larry Dean. They also had big games against the BC Lions last week. Ottawa, no one really stands out other than Kyrie's Hebert. He's a solid veteran, but he also stands out for the wrong reasons with 30 hits, and actually coming into this game, they're actually going to employ another official to watch for hits, because when I go into my Western semifinal video, there was another headshot incident that sparked controversy. So this is something that they have to watch out here for. But getting back into who has the edge in linebackers, I give the edge to the Hamilton Tiger Cats here. But when it comes to the defensive backs, the guys who are on the corners here, protecting the receivers here, Hamilton doesn't really have anyone that stands out consistently here. But Ottawa definitely has guys like Rico Murray, Andy Kofi, Jonathan Rose, and Anton Pernot. So I definitely give the edge to Ottawa there when it comes to defensive backs. Now when it comes to the return game here, you got Frankie Williams for Hamilton and Deontay Spencer for Ottawa. Well, Deontay Spencer lead the league in all-purpose yards, return yards, rushing yards, receiving yards. So by far, Ottawa definitely has the edge when it comes to the return game. And then when it comes to the kicking game, you got Laram Hararahu, who does both jobs for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, while Ottawa has Richie Leone for the punting, and Lewis Ward, he's had one heck of a season kicking. He was 51-52 in field goals, and that one miss came in the opening week of the season. What a story Lewis Ward's been for the Ottawa RedBlacks. He's up for top rookie of the year, and pretty sure he'll get that. And I definitely have to give Ottawa the edge here, because Richie Leone is definitely a great directional punter, and Lewis Ward's been money all season. So now this is where I get to this team will win if. So I would say Ottawa will win if Trevor Harris has time in the pocket to use all of his receivers, spread them all around. I'm definitely going to say if William Powell outruns Hamilton, because Hamilton has Jonathan White and Alex Green, and can their defense contain Jeremiah Mazzoli? And looking at the season series, I'm going to have to say staying disciplined here. Penalties. Whoever takes fewer penalties will likely win, depending on the kind of penalties here. If it, kills any drives or prolongs any drives or if it alters the field position. So that's my keys where I think Ottawa will win. Hamilton will win if I think they can get pressure on Trevor Harris, because as great as Trevor Harris is, if he finds himself under the pressure a lot and has to make rush decisions, he's proven that he can be not as effective, but that's like that with most quarterbacks. So I'm going to say depends how much pressure Hamilton puts on Trevor Harris. I'm going to have to say if Hamilton's defense can shut down Ottawa's receivers, if Trevor Harris can utilize the receivers, but if they're covered, that's another way that can suppress the Red Black offense, because I think this team is definitely loaded on offense. I'm going to say if they get any big plays on special teams that, maybe they'll get a, punt return, kickoff return, or just get favorable field position all game where Jeremiah Masoli doesn't have as long of fields. I definitely can see that, and I'll point out they stay disciplined. Don't take too many dumb penalties that prolongs drives or kills drives or alters field position. So looking at the weather forecast here in Ottawa, I know they had a special weather statement today, but when it comes to game day, they're forecasting sunny and -2 for a high, and the low is cloudy periods, 40% chance of flurries, and -5. But with the game mostly being in the afternoon, it'll just be below freezing but sunny. So I don't think, based on this forecast, weather will be a factor here. So anyway, who do I think is going to win? And we'll be off to Edmonton for the 106th Grey Cup. I say, looking at this matchup here, Ottawa's definitely loaded on offense, and they got key pieces on defense and special teams advantage. I think the Ottawa RedBlacks will be winning this game with 65% confidence. So I think the Ottawa RedBlacks will be making their third trip to the Grey Cup in 4 years, and this is their 5th year in existence. And going to the Grey Cup 3 out of 4 years is pretty good. So that's who I think will be representing the East in the Grey Cup here. So if you enjoy everything I do on my channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and this was the Eastern Final video. So if you want to find out who I think is going to win the Western Final, go look for that video. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video, either for the Western Final or Grey Cup or whatever else you happen upon on my channel.